Probably, like most judges, got very frustrated seeing the same faces over and over again. There was one particular case where a lady was in my court for attacking a paramedic. This was a woman I had dealt with for a number of years, clearly mentally ill. And I just recognized one day, I said, we're just cycling her over and over again, just like being in a revolving door, and we're not getting anywhere. We're dealing with her symptom and not her root cause of her problem. That was probably the watershed day, was just had that one case that I had seen too many times. The very next step was contacting a friend who was then the head of our community mental health clinic, and then talking with a lady that we knew that was the head of a local advocacy center. And we just started talking, and one thing led to the next. We had what we refer to as a HUN meeting, where the judge sends out a letter and tries to get people to show up. Got law enforcement and got local prosecutors, defense lawyers, mental health clinicians, our jail staff, just anybody we thought was dealing with the same group of people. Bit of rough community mapping on problems and resources, and came to the conclusion after that we needed two immediate things, one being a specialized docket, which evolved into a mental health court, and the second being some first responder training, which later we brought in the crisis intervention team training for our local law enforcement jail staff on how to identify persons that are mentally ill, decompensated, not on medications, etc.
You use the black robe to bring people to the table. That's how we had a planning process for 18 months. We have two providers right now that I'm speaking specifically to. One of those providers is a partner with us. They see us as a partner. They want to work with us and work with our clients. They get clients that they know that are going to jail, and they call us and they want to work with us because they see us as a partner for them to be more successful. Another one of our providers looks at us like it's a black robe supervising what we do. You have to get in there and really work with people and get buy-in and get everybody speaking the same language. Through the planning process and community mapping and other activities that we went to see what kind of system we wanted to build, the most significant problem that we had was a language barrier. But what we had to do is recognize what that was and then all agree that it's okay if I say somebody's not stable without the clinical assessments that you've gone through. We agreed to some terms and some education that went through, and now we can speak freely and not worry that we're stepping on each other's toes. Those are some of the pieces of advice I would have for a court that was beginning its planning process and how to be successful. The mental health court started, Judge Pennyhouse Friesman spearheaded an effort to bring a collaboration together between the behavioral health and the criminal justice system. We have a very, very large collaboration. We collaborate with all of the courts, so that's Superior, State, Recorders, Magistrate, and Probate Court. We take felonies and misdemeanors, so we have a felony probation officer and a misdemeanor probation officer. We have 4 treatment providers that we collaborate with that come weekly to staffings. Our Department of Human Resources, who is the one that writes the contract and pays for the behavioral health services, we have a Region 5 coordinator that's kind of in our district, and he is part of the team.
We have a representative from the district attorney's office. We do have legal representation. We have an attorney from the public defender's office, as well as an assistant district attorney that attend all the staffings and come to court every Thursday.
I'm a firm believer in the direct pick up the phone approach. At my level, at the state level, I can pick up the phone, ask people to come to a meeting, and because of my title as justice, they come to a meeting. Local judges have that same ability. They can pick up the phone, they can call their local sheriff, they can call their local mental health board director, they can call their local service providers and say, come to the meeting. I want to put a meeting together and have us all talk. That personal touch to me is the most important. If you delegate it to your staff to make the call or you just send a letter out, I don't think you do that relationship building that makes that program effective. So I encourage them to take the personal time, pick up the phone, make the call yourself.
to be able to do the work and to have a focus on outcomes, to have a focus on reducing recidivism. You really be thinking about long-term public safety, not just short-term public safety. And that really only comes when you fundamentally change an individual's behavior.
We call ourselves a recovery court because we were looking for a context to work with people that did not limit us to just compliance with court orders, criminal justice, and solely taking medication. We wanted to look at the broad areas of people's lives that may be unfulfilled for them, such as housing, education, having positive peer supports, so that they could build a life that they want that was meaningful. Because we believe that will lead to positive criminal justice and mental health outcomes.
A lot of the programs are going back and looking at the data piece. How do we measure outcomes? We all have these powerful human interest stories to tell that are real and they're true. How Jim was living in the street and was decompensated and in and out of our county jail and is now stable, has safe and secure housing, and is holding down a part-time job. Those are powerful stories to tell. But we have to put the data with it to measure outcomes.
My advice to an up-and-coming mental health court who's currently beginning or starting to begin their planning process is to spend a significant amount of time in the planning process doing appropriate community mapping. You need to know what you're working with so that then you can build a successful program. In Savannah, Georgia, we knew that we had treatment services in the community. We didn't need to pay for treatment dollars. What we also found out we had through this community mapping was incredibly fragmented, unstable providers. We determined that what we needed was coordination and not treatment dollars. So once jurisdictions do this community mapping, they figure out where their gaps are and then how you fill those gaps, and then pretty soon you have kind of a system to build on.
I am a native Southwest Georgian. I have lived my entire life, other than my time in school, within 30 miles of the place I was born. We are one of the 10 poorest congressional districts in the country. Not a badge of honor, just a reality. I'm in a jurisdiction that is the only town of any size for 55 to 60 miles in any direction. Healthcare professional shortage area. Don't have a lot of clinicians from the psychology, psychiatry standpoint, but it can be done. You can find what resources are available and leverage them in the most effective way you can. Case management is a big, big issue in this population. You don't have to have someone with a MD, PhD, or even a master's level degree to do that. A lot of it are the details, the following through to make sure people have their appointments, can get to their appointments, have their medicines, can get their prescriptions refilled. It's the small details that make a big impact.
Most teams, as they get started and they work on planning, are made up of people with a real commitment to work together and to collaborate and to work jointly on cases. But it's really important to get those commitments and to be very specific as you can, about getting those commitments into written form, into a memorandum of understanding among the agencies. Because these are not just programs among individual practitioners, they're also programs among individual entities and organizations and government units within a community. And people change, there's turnover, people move on, administrations change, and if you have those written agreements, it's much easier to sustain the program than if you only assume that this is about individual relationships.
First of all, I think that as a community, you have to come together and have a unified front and idea of what you want your mental health court to look like. You need to identify what resources are available in your community and which ones are lacking, so you know where to go get additional resources. I think you need to start dialogues with your county board and different agencies about funding. You then need to look statewide to see if there are any state organizations such as NAMI, the National Alliance for Mentally Ill, if there's any other statewide organizations such as the Mental Health Court Association. Is there some sort of state agency that runs your court systems, or any other statewide treatment provider organizations, to start a dialogue with them to see if they have any resources or any training opportunities to help you get started with your mental health court. I think you then also have to look nationally. You can look to the Council of State Governments, the Gaines Center, or any other state that might have organizations to see how they have progressed with their mental health courts. If I had any advice to give to a newly starting mental health court, it would be don't give up. Try something. Look at what you have. Try and develop a mental health court that you think is going to work. And when you find that there's something lacking, keep trying and tweak the program. Don't be afraid to ask people or organizations for help and handouts. You would be amazed at the people that are out there that want to make this successful, want to help you make it successful, and there are little things that they can help you do. There might be little amounts of money from foundations or organizations that they might have, or people who are willing to volunteer and help you make your program successful. So keep asking.